I want to talk a little bit about the Texans. I feel like we owe an apology almost to Texans fans, Ziggy, because we had a pretty good Texans fan base over the course of the 2023 season. Really nice of Houston fans to come in on the channel. We got a lot of interaction from them. And then we kind of ghosted them during the course of this season. Now, was that partially deserved with the way Houston was playing? Yeah, a little bit. But also, I think we kind of navigated more NFC North over the course of the year and failed to acknowledge, Houston did win the division. All right, they did win the division, and here they are now in the divisional round in a rematch of their game earlier in the year against the Chiefs. They went on the road, lost 27-19 to Patrick Mahomes in Kansas City, and that game, it's unfortunate. I believe that was the game Tank Dell got hurt, and Tank Dell was having a really good game too going into that. So I'm already a little concerned without Dell, without Diggs. This was not the version of the Houston offense that we expected to see in the playoffs. The reason they brought in Diggs was to match the Chiefs, the Bills, the Ravens, the explosive offenses. Exactly the way the Texans thought it would play out is what's happening right now in the AFC. Would you agree with that? The teams that they're trying to beat are all the teams that made it. And I look at this here as I don't know if they're going to be able to win a shootout. Like, I don't think it'll be a shootout. To me, my focus is Stroud not turning the football over and the defense it'll be turnovers, I think. And the defense getting enough stops and maybe that late crucial stops of Mahomes. But there's a chance here, right? You don't think the Texans go and get blown out, do you?
I found a lot of lines puzzling this weekend when they opened. Texans +8 was maybe the most puzzling line there is, at least for me. I was thinking when you mentioned Tank Dell, what an unfortunate injury. He fractured his fibula last year. This year he dislocated his kneecap. That's like the stuff that careers end on.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the Texans can match up very well against this Chiefs team. The Chiefs' offensive line has struggled. And I know Patrick Mahomes is great at avoiding pressures and avoiding sacks. Will Anderson is great at causing sacks. Danielle Hunter is great at causing sacks. You do not want a vulnerable offensive line going against this team. The Texans' defensive backs, you've got Kamari Lassiter, Derek Stingley, and apparently now Jeff Okudah are all playing decent football. Lassiter and Stingley in particular have an argument for the best cornerback duo in the league. They got Justin Herbert to throw 4 interceptions. Now, I worry more about the Texans' offense. I worry about Chris Jones versus the Texans' interior offensive line. The interior O-line has been maybe the weakest unit on the Texans this year.
For a while.
Chris Jones is a monster. This is his 3rd year in a row as a first-team All-Pro. And honestly, he got a bunch of second-team All-Pros when Aaron Donald was playing, and that's not fair. That's basically a first-team All-Pro. It's not your fault you have to go against the best defensive player to ever live. So I'm worried about the offense, but with a great defense. We have seen this Chiefs team and the offense struggle in so many games against inferior defenses and inferior competition. I know we're saying the team's starting to get healthy. Like maybe Jalen Watson's back, Marquise Brown, Isaiah Pacheco, those guys are back and they can play. I don't think the Chiefs offense is going to have a great game. And I think Houston's defense is going to keep them in it. Over a touchdown seems outrageous.
I think a lot of people are still thinking about that Christmas Day game, 31-2, when they lost to the Ravens. Like that's a kind of performance on national television that's hard to overcome for a lot of people when you think about the Texans. Like they've won what? They've won 3 of their last 5, 4 of their last 6 heading into the playoffs, and those losses were to the Chiefs and the Ravens, 2 of the best teams in the league. But if you go back and watch that Chiefs game, it was a very good game throughout. I mean, the Texans had their chances at the end of the game to tie or take the lead. They were a stop away from being in a position to win. So you go back and watch that, and you see CJ Stroud was pretty comfortable in Arrowhead. He had 2 bad interceptions in the first half, but they ultimately weren't too costly. I think that if Stroud plays clean, and I don't expect the moment to be too big for him. CJ Stroud is one of those guys to me that he's ready for the moment. I'd be really surprised.
He's won 2 playoff games now. He knows what it takes.
I'd be really surprised if he came out and had a dud. The worry that I have for CJ is it's not in him. It's about that Chiefs defense is really good. Like if they're pressuring him the whole game, like you said, Stroud was sacked 52 times this year. That's second most in the league. You know who's number 1?
Who is number 1? Is it Sam Darnold?
Sam is 4th with 48. Geno Smith was 3rd at 50. Number 1, 68 sacks, 16 more than anyone else, Caleb Williams. So
he took 68 sacks. Is that a record?
It might be. Check it. That might be a record. But, CJ Stroud has been sacked a lot this year. And my concern is that if this turns into one of those games where it's a defensive battle and the Chiefs again stops, that's the game where Mahomes does just enough to extend it to a 10-point lead late. And it's never really a game. It's never a blowout. And the Chiefs advance to the conference championship. It's going to come down to the Texans offense finding ways to get touchdowns on the board. They were unable to do that in the first meeting they had. A lot of field goals. So I hope, and not a lot of field goals, I'm sorry. They had what, 2 field goals because they missed an extra point. So they had 2 touchdowns, 2 field goals in that game. But still, without Tank Dell playing in this, I'm a little concerned for the offense. But I do think that given the defensive performance they've had to this entire season, particularly last week, and given that I believe in CJ Stroud, I think the Texans can go in there and win this. I'm not going to pick them, but I would not be surprised if at the end of the game, CJ Stroud has the ball late and is going on a game-winning drive.
I feel embarrassed. Texans fans will know who the record holder for most sacks in a single season is.
Or was it David Carr?
It was David Carr in his rookie year. He took 76.
So Caleb was close on that. Jeez.
Yeah, it's Randall Cunningham was number 2, Philly 1986, 72 sacks. Can you imagine? I don't understand how you go back and play another year after you take 76 sacks. David Carr shows up again at 4th. 3 years later, he took 68 sacks. So I don't understand why you continue playing football at that point. But to go back to this game, I think the Chiefs offense they had an above average performance for them on the season against the Texans, as he said, when the Texans went to Arrowhead.
Yeah.
I don't think that's going to happen again. I can't see Patrick Mahomes escaping this game with a relatively efficient performance, a touchdown, and no interceptions. I think this Texans defense is hungry.
They are.
And it's a lot to ask for your defense when you're going against Patrick Mahomes to win you the game. But from what we've seen from CJ Stroud and Joe Mixon, they've gotten better as the year has gone on. Nico Collins showed last week when the time comes, they can step up. And the Chargers defense, everybody's acting like they're a bunch of bums because the Texans put up 32 on them. This Chargers defense was one of the best in the NFL. And Joe Mixon turned in one of his best performances of the season. And CJ Stroud showed that he's back. Nico Collins, actually, even more than CJ Stroud showed that he's back.
I would say that first half, the Texans offense, up until that incredible scramble play from Stroud, was pretty uneventful.
Yeah,
but after that, they woke up.
That's what you want. Well, he want an offense that can turn it on off just one
So
play.
Here's the thing, though. This is where I'm really excited to watch the Texans. Is that if you look back over the last 5 games that they played with Stroud starting, because they beat the Titans at the end of the year with all the backups in. The final 5 games, they lost to the Titans, beat the Jags by 3, beat the Dolphins by 8, lost to the Chiefs, blown out by the Ravens. We really haven't seen good Houston Texans football. This is why so many people pick the Chargers to beat them. We haven't seen good Houston Texans football for most of this season, especially down the stretch here. That Charger game was the first time where you watched them and went, oh, wow, like that's what they were supposed to look like. Maybe not 4 interceptions on an elite quarterback, but that's the team that we were expecting, a Super Bowl caliber team. And this is why it's kind of exciting because you got that performance in the playoff game. And this is in the playoffs. Forget about the rest of the regular season. It's one and done. If you show up, if you get hot at the right time, you can go win a Super Bowl. So I don't think they're going to go into Arrowhead and win this. It's a tough place to play. Mahomes is the best quarterback in the league and thrives in these moments. But there's a lot of reason for optimism because the team that you've been waiting to see showed up, especially in the second half against the Chargers. And if you get a performance even close to that, if you get that effort level and Nico Collins is unstoppable, they can win this game. So it's unlikely, but the Texans are here.
I'll tell you what you can't do. You can't have a fumble on the first snap of the game.
No.
If they do that against the Chiefs, it's over.
No, you can't have that. So the Texans, there you go, guys. I don't necessarily believe in you, but I do. I am looking forward to watching you play. And I wasn't thinking that last week. Chargers Texans, I was not looking forward to watching. And here we are now in the divisional round. So